Welcome to the Georgia Highlands College Chemistry Podcast. In this podcast, we will be discussing measurements and how to take a measurement properly. Now, you'll probably laugh and say, well, I can measure anything. If you give me a ruler, I can measure the length. If you give me a graduated cylinder, I can measure the volume, and so forth. I seriously doubt if most of you can measure something accurately without having the proper instructions. We've discussed significant figures and how important they are to use in calculations. So these significant digits that we use in our calculations have to come from some form of a measurement. So how do we measure anything properly? Well, when we measure anything, we always have to estimate to the nearest tenth of a scale division between the smallest marks on that appliance. For example, on this ruler, we can see that the ruler is graduated to the nearest millimeter. The green line above the ruler looks like it falls about 6/10 of the way down the ruler. So we would estimate this as 4.6 millimeters, two significant digits. If we express it as 5 millimeters or 4.60 millimeters, we have not read this precisely. To get another decimal place, we have to have a ruler that has finer graduations. Now, in this example, we can see that the ruler is graduated to the nearest tenth of a millimeter. Therefore, we can read the ruler to the nearest 1/100th of a millimeter. We can see that the line comes between 4.5 and 4.6 millimeters, and we estimate to the nearest tenth of a scale division between 4.5 and 4.6 millimeters. We come up with 4.56 millimeters. In this example, we have a graduated cylinder. A graduated cylinder is a tool that is used to measure accurately the volume of a liquid. When we measure a liquid's volume, we must measure the bottom of the curved meniscus. In this case, our meniscus falls somewhere between 52 and 53 milliliters. So we read the scale to the nearest tenth of a milliliter. In this case, I came up with 52.6 milliliters. More pipettes are used to deliver volumes of liquid into a solution. We can see first that this pipette is graduated from top to bottom, not bottom to top as we have in many cases. We can also see that it's graduated to the nearest tenth of a milliliter. Therefore, we have to measure to the nearest 1/100th of a milliliter. We can see that the volume in the pipette comes up to 4.86 milliliters. So in summary, this podcast has been a quick introduction in how to measure something properly. When we measure anything on a scale, we always estimate to the nearest tenth of a scale division. In some cases, again, this means we measure to the nearest 1,000th, 1/100th, tenth, or even unity. It depends on what our tool has. Thank you for listening to this Georgia Highlands College Chemistry Podcast. I look forward to seeing you at our next episode.